Hello everyone, this is Todd Blankenship with Shutterstock.com, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you Hisan, new pack of over 50 ink transition elements. With these elements, you can create really impressive transitions and montages in a very short period of time. These 4K elements were designed to be used in Premiere, After Effects, and Final Cut. However, you should be able to use them in any nonlinear video editor. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the elements in all three programs. Let's get started with Premiere. So here we are in Premiere, and I'm going to use the elements from the Hisan pack to create a kind of a cool looking music video type sequence. So what I'm going to start with is my background here. And so I've pulled in a couple elements from one of our other packs called Canvas, which is just a loopable background pack. And this one is kind of an inky looking sort of cool background. And I'm going to go ahead and start a new sequence by clicking this new item button here and selecting sequence. And then I'm going to go to the custom settings. That's how I like to set up my sequences. I'm going to set that to custom, and I'm going to make it 1920 by 1080 at 23.976 frames per second, and I'm going to hit OK. So now we have a new sequence, and I'm going to start by dragging the ink background down here, and I'm going to go ahead and keep existing settings. And so with the canvas background here, I'm going to go ahead and just extend it, and again, these are loopable, so I'm going to hit the Alt key and drag out, make copies, just like that. And I'm going to just close the gaps by right-clicking, ripple delete. And I do not want this background to be blue like it is, so I'm going to grab a fast color corrector, and we're going to just turn down the saturation. And I'm also just going to kind of turn up the contrast a little bit. I just want a kind of a subtle ink type background there, and I'm just going to copy and paste it to the rest of them. So now we have this background, and you can see a little bit of the subtle movement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the elements from the Hisan pack to reveal these two clips of, we got this guy singing, playing guitar, and we have this guy over here slapping the bass. Let's try some ink spills, and we're going to have him reveal first. So I'm going to go ahead and just drag this clip down onto our background here, zoom way in. And so here we go. We have this guy, he's playing. So let's go find an ink spill that we like. And I'm thinking that looks pretty cool. Let's see if we can just kind of see what the options are. Okay, I like this one right here coming from the side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this ink spill here, and I'm going to drag it on top of our footage layer. And you'll see it looks much bigger here, and that's because this is a 1080 sequence, and these elements are 4K. So I'm going to right-click and select Scale to Frame Size. There we go. That looks a bit more appropriate. And now I'm going to take our footage layer here, and I'm going to select a track matte key. So go over to your effects panel and type in track matte, and you'll grab your track matte key and drag it to your footage layer, and go up to effect controls and change the matte layer to the one that has your ink on it. So that's going to be V3. So here we're going to select video 3, and then we're going to select matte luma, and we're going to reverse it. Okay, so now we have this really cool thing where we still have our background from before, and here is our guy playing guitar. And so here we go. Now we have this thing, and obviously he's kind of a little too far off in the middle, and we might want to push him off to this side here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just delete our track matte, and I'm going to show you how to kind of move that stuff around. So I'm going to go ahead and take our bassist here, and I'm going to shift him this way. Okay, so that's about that's more so where we'd want them probably. And I'm going to nest it. So I'm going to right click and select nest and hit OK. And then now we're going to reapply our track matte key and do the same thing that we did before. And now he's further off to the left. You just need to know that when you use a track matte, it's going to ignore all of your scale and position data from the motion tools. Basically, if you try to move it, it's going to move your matte as well. So the way around that is you have to nest after you've made your adjustments. So if you have a small scale up, you want to nest before you try to do the track matte. And one problem you're seeing now is you can actually kind of see the line where we made that alteration there sometimes, like right about there. And so what I would do to fix that, since this is just a solid white background, I'm going to go back into our nest, and I'm going to go to a new item, and I'm going to select color matte, hit OK, and then with the medicine dropper, just select that white, hit OK. And now since you have this nested element, you can actually just add whatever you want underneath it, and there you go. Now it's kind of extended, and then now when we come back in here, it's all edited the way that it's supposed to be. So just a little trick there. And so obviously you can still see we still have our ink background from before. It's very subtle, but that's how I wanted it. And now I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guitar player and singer as well. So here he is, and I think it'd be cool if he kind of pops up on this side of the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and drag him down. And the first thing I'm going to do, because he's on this side, I'm going to go ahead and just do a horizontal flip. So I'm going to go to Effects, select Horizontal Flip, and there he is now. I'm going to go ahead and grab another splat or spill. Okay, so I like that one right there. But it's a little bit small, and again, these are 4K, and this is 1080, so we're going to still be able to use it, I think. So I'm going to drag that right on top, and I'm going to position that where I like it for our singer here. And again, I'm going to have it a bit bigger, so even though this is a 4K element, I'm going to go ahead and leave it big like it is right now. So yeah, right there, that's going to be cool for that reveal. And I'm going to go ahead and cut the front part of that shot off. And now what I want to do for both of those layers, because I want the track matte to respect how the shot is now, not the way that it was supposed to be when you dropped it in, just like before with that other element, I'm going to go ahead and nest both of them. That way, the track matte will respect the horizontal flip that we did, as well as the kind of bigger size of the ink splat. And it's just one of those things that you kind of have to do to make sure that the track matte works all right. And I'm going to grab a track matte key, place it on here, and again, our splat layer is on V5. So I'm going to select Video 5. I'm going to select Matte Luma, and we're going to reverse. And there we go. Our singer kind of appears that way. And you'll see there's a little bit of transparency at the beginning of the shot there. So to fix that, I'm going to grab a Lumetri effect, and I'm going to drag it onto our ink layer here. And I'm going to drop down the curves. And just on the RGB curve here, I'm going to crush down the black sum. I'm going to raise the highlights. So now, when that splat happens, right there is our singer. So now you're building a pretty cool little montage here. And just to tie it all together, I'm going to take an element from the emulsion pack, just some film grain here. I'm going to scale it to frame size. And then I'm going to take the opacity tab and drop it down and set it to hard light. And here we go. After some rendering, here we go. Here's our little montage that we created in a really short period of time. Now let's say you just wanted to have kind of a ink element appear on its own, cut out, and change the color and everything. That's a really easy thing to do. So we're going to just start with this background here, again from the canvas pack. And I'm just going to grab any ink splat and just pull it down. So we'll just start with this one right here. So I'm going to take that and I'm just going to drag it right on top, just like that. And I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. Okay, and just drag it one layer up. And one of them is going to be the matte layer and one of them is going to be the element layer. And before I go any further, I'm going to nest both so that the track matte recognizes the scale correctly. And I'm going to drag the track matte key to the bottom layer, and we're going to set the correct video layer, so that's going to be V3, and change it to Matte Luma. And so there we go. Now you can see our background through that again. And if you hit reverse, now we have this black ink element. So let's say you wanted to change the color of this ink element to be more appropriate for, maybe the color of your background. So to do that, I'm going to go to Tint and drag it to the bottom layer. On Map Black to, that's where you're going to change your color. And if you can see, there's a little bit of white edge, and that's just because of the difference in luminance values and everything. So all you'd have to do to fix that is just change your map white to red as well. And so now you have a solid red color, and obviously you can build some really cool graphics and stuff with that sort of look. And there you go. Now you have this really cool kind of red ink splatter. If you wanted to make like a horror trailer or something like that, that would look really cool. So now switching over to Final Cut, we're going to build kind of an intro to a show about this detective guy. And he's going to be going up some creepy stairwell. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the creepy stairwell. And I'm going to drag that in, create a new sequence here, hit OK. And I'm going to go ahead and have one of these ink elements reveal the stairwell. So we need to start with a background. So I just grabbed this kind of grungy looking background sort of thing. And to start, I'm just going to create the element of the actual stairwell footage itself, because they have to be done separately. So I'm going to take ink spill 3 here. I'm going to drag it on top of our creepy stairwell footage here. To do this in Final Cut, it's really, really easy. All you have to do is go up to your ink layer, select your ink layer, go up to compositing, and you can select Stencil Luma or Silhouette Luma, depending on what you're trying to do. We're going to start with Silhouette Luma and see what that gets us. And it looks like Silhouette Luma is the way that we wanted to go. Each time you create one of your elements, select both of your clips and select New Compound Clip after right-clicking and hit OK. So now we have this kind of stairwell element, creepy stairwell thing going on. And now you can put the background underneath and you'll see it through that transition. And I'm going to go ahead and scale that up just so it fits the whole frame. So now we have creepy stairwell, and let's go ahead and bring in intense detective dude, and we're going to create another transition element for him. So I'm going to use ink splat 5 here, drag it down on top, and so there we go. We got our ink down there. So again, we just click on our ink layer, go up to composite, silhouette, luma, and now I'm going to select both of those layers, select a new compound clip after right clicking, and now we have both of these things that we can just drop on top of our background. Okay, and so here we go. We've got our creepy stairwell. Here comes our detective. And obviously, if you just kept playing with that, you could create some really cool stuff. And with these ink elements in Final Cut, if you wanted to change the color, it's really easy. All you got to do is go to a colorize effect and just drag it onto your element. And then you'll just remap your black to whatever color you want. So we'll just say something like that. And if you just want to leave your white as white, you can. And there you go. Now you've got red ink splattering on. And obviously you can play with different overlay modes to get different results. Okay, so now here we are in After Effects, and we're going to do just kind of a cool looking shot with some birds and stuff like that. There's just a lot of really cool kind of moody stuff you can do with this pack. And so I'm starting with this grungy background again, and I'm just going to put like a slight grow on it. So I'm just going to hit S for scale, start the stopwatch. I'm going to go forward to about 10 seconds, and we'll just up it by maybe about 7 or 8. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the N key, which will set the end point for the comp. And I'm going to right click on this little gray bar here and select trim comp to work area. And so now we have about a 10-second thing here. I'm going to take the shot of some birds here. I'm going to select a part that I like. That seems like a nice moment. So I'm just going to set the end point there, drag it forward, and I'm going to set the out point there. And then I'm just going to drag it down on top of our shot here. And so now we have the shot, and I'm going to take one of the elements from Hisan here. Let's just go through the ink spills because I like those because they fill a lot of the frame. So I like this one right here for the shot. So I'm going to drag that down. And again, we need to scale it down because this is for 4K. So you can see it's way too big. So I'm just going to press S for scale and type 50. And that's going to scale it down perfectly. So I'm going to go ahead and grab our footage layer with the birds on it. And I'm going to go to track matte and select Luma matte. And this is the opposite of what we want because we want the birds flying in here. So all you got to do is just select Luma Matte Inverted. And I'm going to go ahead and make this footage black and white. So I'm just going to select it, go up to Effect, Color Correction, select Tint. So now here we go. We've got this starting background here and this awesome transition, some birds flying in. And let's say we wanted to add an ink spray on top of this whole thing, and that would look pretty cool. So I'm going to take the ink spray element here, and I'm going to drag it on top. Now we have some ink spray filling our whole frame. We're going to hit S. We're going to scale it to 50%. Now it's nice and small. And I'm going to duplicate that. And so what we want to do is have this ink spray. I want it to be red. Okay, so right now it's black. I want it to be red. So I'm going to go ahead and take the bottom layer, and I'm going to select Luma Matte Inverted. Okay, so now we have this splattering ink flying up on top. And so I'm going to change the color of this element to, like, let's say maybe red. I'm going to select the bottom layer, go up to Effect, Generate Fill, pretty bright red. I'm going to go ahead and darken that red, something a little bit more appropriate. There we go. It's looking pretty nice and creepy. So there we go. This is what we have right now. I think the red blood splatter is coming in quite a bit too early. I guess it's blood. I just now decided that. So I'm gonna slide that back a little bit so that we can take in the birds first. And I'm also gonna have some text appear. So I'm just gonna find a font that would look appropriate with something like this. And I just found a font called Surfing Capital. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose that font. And I'm just gonna type Hisan and scale it up. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make it like a dark gold color, something like that. Yeah, that looks kind of cool. And what I want to do is make one of the ink transitions reveal this text here. Yeah, I think this one right here is going to be the one. So I'm going to drag that down. So I'm just going to find something like right on the edge where when the ink stops, it's kind of slowly filling up the text. So something like this might look kind of cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select our text layer here, go to the track matte options, and we're going to mess with the Luma matte. So we want the black to reveal the text. So this is the opposite of what we want. So I'm going to do Luma Matte Inverted. and I'm going to move the ink element to where we reveal the full text there. Okay, and so here we go. Here's the look that we've built in a really short period of time in After Effects. And maybe the red blood looking splatters are a bit dramatic for it, but you get the idea. So I hope you enjoy the Hisan pack and get some great use out of these elements. It's a great, fast way to add bold and impactful looks into your video projects.